DeFi Kingdoms, where you can summon heroes, trade with other players, quest, and fight challenging enemies in a fantasy world brought to life in pixel art animation. Command your legion, claim your legacy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's AMA with DeFi Kingdoms. I am Bullon. I will be your host. We have Winston, Hubert, Magnus joining me, and we will have a couple other folks trickling in as well here in the next couple minutes, as well as Fox is going to be joining a little bit later, but we have a specific question for him, so we're going to save that one until he gets here as well. All right. So we are going to kick off with a few updates, and then we will move into the question portion of this AMA. But first things first, let's kick it over to Winston to talk about his good friend.
Hey guys, Stonecarver is back. He's in Crystal Vale for like 14 more hours, I think, give or take a little bit. So scrape your materials together and get over there and carve them up. Also, if you have not checked out Expeditions, you can take a second to look at the new tutorial I posted yesterday on my YouTube. Check it out, get a good feel for it, and then jump in. It's fantastic. Thanks, Bullon.
And thank you for making that that tutorial. That's the word I couldn't come up with, even though you just said it.
Dude, it's like me trying to say AVAX. I think I said it wrong this time too.
No, you said it right. You said it wrong. You said it wrong. Sorry, it's a box. But we got to be fancy, Winston. But no, greatly appreciate that, and all of the other tutorials that you've made for hunts and everything else. I know they're well received and loved. So we greatly appreciate you taking that time. Let's see. Next up, some quick updates about Klaytn/Kaya. Over to Magnus.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another AMA. So just quick update for me. Klaytn has renamed, or they're in the process of renaming their chain to Kaya. Same for their testnet. I think it was called Baobab before, and I can never say that right. And then they've renamed it to Kairos. So that comes with an RPC update if you're using the public one, and I will post it in the chat here. But yeah. And they've completely looks like it was a link, so it wouldn't go through. But yeah, anyway, I believe it's in an announcement in Discord. But yeah, the old one has been shut off. I think it's like Klaytn.rpc .DeFi Kingdoms. So just be sure if you're having issues to swap over to that new one. Anyway, that's it for me.
Thank you, Magnus. You make me not want to turn my camera on because your beard is better. Also, if you want to drop that in the private chat, I think it'll let me send it. Maybe we can find out though, but I don't have it handy. If you do, we can. Oh, yep, there we go. And yeah, so this is in announcements as well, but basically it's just the new URL for the RPC. Let's see if it actually goes through when I try it. Yep, there you go. So if you do need it, there it is. So let me know if you have any issues or anything. Reach out to us in Discord. Obviously, we'll get you taken care of. But don't update the token tracker or anything like that. None of that has changed yet. So the token symbol is still Clay, and if you try to make it Kaya, it does not work. So just the URL for the time being. As things progress with this transition, obviously we will continue to keep you up to date. Any other changes? Excuse me. Any other changes you need to make, etc. All right. So I have one more update that will actually roll over into our first question. But before that, because what's the fun without a little anticipation? We also have an update/announcement that we are going to give at the end of this AMA. So make sure you stay tuned so that one of these fine folks here on stage with me will remind me that I am forgetting to give that update and announcement. But it's something I'm really excited for. So make sure you stay tuned till the end to catch what that is. However, for right now, one more update and it will roll us into our first question. Expeditions has been out for a few hours shy of a week. Super excited to have Expeditions out. Major shout out to Magnus and Hubert and Winston and Dr. Zipper and everybody else on our side that worked on this feature. It was a massive feature. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm on the tail end of COVID. Sorry. But anyway, massive feature. Super glad to have it out. We did have a couple of bugs pop up. There are details of all of that in the Discord announcements channel. If you have questions about any of it, reach out. But all in all, just been an awesome release, and cannot give enough kudos to everybody on our side that worked on that. It was a massive undertaking, and it has been awesome so far. So if you have not checked out Expeditions, highly recommend also checking out Winston's YouTube channel for both a tutorial on them as well as kind of a helpful guide on one option of ways to level up your heroes while they're in Expeditions until phase 2 comes out with the auto leveling option. So with that, we are going to roll into our questions. So the first question, which like I said is kind of related, what are the plans for dealing with players who knowingly abuse exploits, banning, seizing assets, legal action? What's on the table? So this is a question that's really a very case-by-case situation, because it depends on what they did and how. So, obviously this is Web3, so something like seizing assets isn't on the table because it's not possible. They're in non-custodial wallets. One of our whole basis is player-owned assets. We don't have a ban list, and we don't intend to implement a ban list. But again, even if we were to, there's only so much that can be banned in the first place, because blockchains are by their nature open to everyone. So there's also the anonymity aspect to keep in mind as well. In a serious enough situation, there are routes that can be pursued, and if it comes to that, we absolutely are open to pursuing those routes and looking after our users, looking after the good of the protocol and everything involved in that. But it is a double-edged sword of Web3 that things are not as straightforward as the Web2 world. This isn't we aren't Blizzard. We can't just say, oh, your whole IP address is just gone now. So you take the good with the bad, right? And that is where we are at with that. So like I said, there are things that can be done in serious situations, and we evaluate each of those situations individually. Moving on to our next question, I'm going to throw it over to Hubert. When selecting abilities for heroes during hunt prep, for example, thoughts on having the ability show numbers based on the actual stats of the hero selected rather than the formulas?
Yeah, I like that idea. It's something that we've been wanting to do. I think it's already on Beetle's list at this point. I'm not sure when that will surface to the top of the list with all the things that are on there. But yeah, we would like to do that. Maybe have a toggle or something that would let you switch between the formulas and what it means for that specific hero. And I guess just one note on that is a lot of those things are kind of dynamic. So it wouldn't be precise. It'd be like a ballpark, just because if you were doing, for example, a PvP match and your guys were all level 15 and the enemies were all level 13, it would kind of adjust what the numbers ended up being in some cases. So, but yeah, anyway, do like that idea. Do want it to happen. It's just a question of when.
Perfect. Speaking of questions of when, Hubert, are there any planned releases between the release of private match PvP and tournament implementation, or will development mostly focus on tournament development and balance fixes?
I think there will be. We have some things that are going to be PvP related that are going to come out after we launch PvP. That's before tournaments that we just have already kind of slated. And then I think we're pushing to have at least some other things in there as well. I just don't want to promise, because depending on timelines, we may have to push some things back. But I will say that, you know, our goal is to have a few different features come out in between the PvP launch and the tournaments launch.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. I think the short answer is yes and yes, because we will be very focused on balance and tournaments as well, but also have some other plans. So we have a couple of questions related to front end things. Our dude of Beetle is currently in another time zone, so he is not with us today. But I did speak to some of our front end guys to be able to speak for them a little bit on this AMA. So would it, because both Dr. Zipper and Typical are busy at work at the moment, but would it be possible, if not terribly work intensive on the team's part, to add a search function for recessive genes? So that, and we have a lot of other suggestions around more advanced filtering and presets and all of that. Definitely something that is on our list and something that we want to do in the future as part of a broader revamp of the filtering system. But it is not something that is currently in priority. So on the list, but not necessarily in the shortest term. And let's see. Going back to Hubert for a moment here, thoughts on priests eventually having an exorcist ability tree that, for example, would allow double damage on dark summoned heroes?
I mean, that's interesting, but that would mean we'd have to get rid of a different tree that we already have for the priest, I guess. And you know, I'm not really too keen on having something like a tree that's like specific to PvP only. So if we did something like that, that would mean we'd also need to have the equivalent of dark summoned enemies to also be susceptible to that tree in PvE. So that's quite a bit of a commitment. I don't think we'll be doing that. I could see us maybe having equipment though that may have a bonus or two against specific heroes, perhaps. But probably not going to have a whole skill tree on a class for that.
Very nice. And don't worry, there's a question about enemies a little bit later. Do we have plans to add a feature to auto group heroes by filter and then auto queue them with the same count of stamina used in iterations? So that's expeditions, sorry. For expeditions, we do have various UI and UX improvements coming. That particular one is not currently on our list, but one thing to keep in mind as well with phase 2, which will be a little bit later, but introduce auto leveling. It should also help with that because you'll be able to queue your heroes for a longer period of time without feeling like you're, potentially missing out on level ups and that kind of thing. So a lot of that will change once that feature is out. Going back to Hubert, do we plan to implement subclasses before all of the class codices are implemented into the game? And if so, do we worry that this would essentially hurt heroes that have higher tier subclasses since those classes will be implemented later?
So to the first question, yes, I do see us having subclasses out before all of the codices are implemented. Just like, for example, the monk class itself has disarm ability or keyword that it uses, which essentially requires us to have the secondary equipment, like secondary weapons and secondary offhands, implemented, because it forces you to switch to your secondary equipment when that happens. And that whole secondary equipment system is kind of tied to subclasses. So we can't implement monk without implementing subclasses first, with the concern about it, hurting potentially some classes because they have a subclass that's not implemented yet. I don't think that really changes the situation compared to like how we have it right now. I guess it may make some heroes that are, usable in combat right now, less effective than other ones that are also usable right now if they have like a subclass that is aligned. But it also, you do have to use your skill points to be able to select those subclass skills. So if you're taking those, you may be not taking something else for your main class. So at least between levels 1 through 20, I'm not sure it's going to be too impactful. Once we start getting to higher levels and you have more skill points, I think then that impact will be higher. But you know, it's kind of one of those is what it is situations. Like if we, you know, I don't know that there's a really good other solution that we could take other than, you know, wait a very long time for us to implement every single class all in the background and not release any of them until they're all ready, and then release them all at once or something like that, which, you know, that would take a long time. I don't think that really would be enjoyable to anybody. So you know, I think we're just going to have to deal with you know, that potential outcome. But you know, eventually those heroes will, once the subclass class is implemented, you know, then you're good to go, and you might, you know, suddenly have a much stronger hero than what other people have been using up to that point.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Caravan Leader NPC. Why is that dude so weird? The answer to that is SBD's brain. He came up with it, and that's what it is, because that's how his brain works. One quick side note from questions, because Mega is helping keep me straight. Meant to mention this in the updates. We did have our CEG vote with Metis go live. Essentially, that vote is to make us what they call a community verified project. It's a part of their governance system, which basically it approves through governance the projects that Metis fully co-markets. So we've already seen some co-marketing with Metis that they were doing with us anyway, but this really allows them to just open up that faucet and do whatever they so choose, within reason, probably. I don't actually know, but basically that's part of their governance process, so that they as a chain are only representing projects that their governance system has signed off on. So that vote has actually closed already, but we should have passed. From everything I've seen, I mean, the yes was almost 100%, but they also require a quorum of a certain amount of Metis and a certain number of wallets. But from what I have seen, we hit both of those, so we should be good to go, which is awesome and super exciting. So greatly appreciate all of you that went out and voted. I really like part of their system is the quorum of number of wallets, because it doesn't matter how much Metis you have in your wallet. If the vote doesn't hit enough wallets, it still has to be redone because it didn't reach quorum. So I think that's a pretty cool system, but greatly appreciate everybody who went out and represented for us. As always, much love to all of you guys. Well, actually, by complete luck and coincidence, that worked out really well, because our next question is about Metis. So we're going to jump over. We're going to kick this one off with Sunbear. Are there devs on the Metis side helping with PvP, or is all of the work being done with Kingdom Studio resources?
Yeah, I'll start this one off. Hey, everybody. And then, you know, the devs can hop in and add whatever y'all would like. So yeah, we're the ones building the the PvP. It's our product, it's our game, and it's what we've been working on, obviously, for 3 years now. So, but I do want to say their devs have been very helpful, and it's been an interesting process as we've kind of gone through it. A little bit of a history of how we kind of got to where we are. If you aren't aware. You know, originally we talked with Metis, they talked with us about the idea of having a third realm. Really kind of did a full assessment of their chain and technology and the cost of transactions and all that kind of stuff, like we do with every chain that we consider something like that with, or any feature with, and realized very quickly that the way that it was built, there was no way that that was going to happen to be feasible for the cost of the users, and for other reasons too. And so we started talking about, like, what could we do with them? And this is, I think, a really cool direction that I like that our team is moving in, like finding partners that are bullish on what we're doing, how we're doing it, what we've built in the past, what they want to see us build with and for them in the future, and customizing to the technology that they're really wanting to have optimized or capitalized on. And so As we brainstormed on our end, as you know, we've got idea of PvP, Coliseum, exclusivity on the Metis chain. And so that really was born there, but with several follow-ups that allowed us to do more, because on their end, they were really trying to figure out how, honestly, how to make Metis a better chain for gaming and for other protocols that they wanted to, bring there and see more transactions. And so originally it was like, partnerships with like Eigenlayer and other folks to try and make it a better, more reasonably priced experience and a better experience on that chain. When that wasn't coming together, they shifted. They, consulted with us and other partners to try and figure out what can we make the treatment costs, the amount of gas, all that kind of stuff. What does it need to look like to really have things run smoothly for users like yourselves? And they showed up. They made big shifts. It allowed us to make even more changes, add on to the deal. So in a nutshell, they've been great consultants, great, to work side by side with. But we're building the game. They're providing the space for us to launch it on. Anything anybody else would like to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to hop in here and just shout out some of the specs that they were able to upgrade their chain to handle now. So the first one, they with this most recent change added a 1.1 billion block gas limit, and for reference, DFK chain is 25 million. So that just unlocks huge potential for putting a bunch of transactions in one block. And it could be taken up by one person if needed. So you might be able to quest or queue up all of your heroes in one expedition. I don't know. The possibilities are pretty crazy there. So that was something we didn't even know was coming, and they were able to include that as well. Previously, it was like a 9 to 10 second block time on their chain, and they dropped their block time down to 2 seconds as well, which is similar to DFK chain. So going to be really snappy to get those transactions through. And then lastly, they also, with the same upgrade, added decentralized sequencers. And if you know anything about L2s, the sequences are often like a point of failure. If you watch like Arbitrum or Optimism, I think they've had some issues with it, as they've been running on mainnet. And so if they're decentralized on Metis, there's not like one single point of failure there. So all awesome updates, and they kind of have rolled that out just recently after we began the partnership with them. So they're doing great stuff on that front and on the dev side as we work on the PvP side internally with the DFK team.
Awesome. Yeah, very much collaborative. Gonna grab a quick question from chat, and I'm 99% sure I'm gonna answer this correctly, but Dreamer, Sunbear, help keep me straight just in case. I imagine the exclusivity begins on the day of launch. So part of the grant from Metis includes a period of exclusivity for PvP. Would features released afterwards have a renewed year countdown, or would it be based on launch date for them? So there are additional features that we are building out that don't fall into the exclusivity, though they are pretty directly tied to PvP for, I think, all of them. But the core features that have exclusivity, the 1 year does start from the date of launch. And then each of those essentially have their own exclusivity period. So like, just to use as an example, like private matches starts on the day of private matches, tournaments starts on the day of tournaments. So each one maintains its own period. Sunbear Dreamer, did I get that right and explain it correctly?
Yeah, you nailed it, full on. That was how we put the deal together with them. So each of those 3 major stages will have their own exclusivity from the time of launch. Absolutely. And then just to give you an idea of what it looks like now with Metis, I mean, obviously we're coordinating as we build things out with their builders, but most of the activity with that team is happening with their marketing team. We're really kind of ramping up what campaigns will look like, which partners to work directly with, they're very much looking forward to this launch with us, and we've just in the last couple of weeks met more of their team that's going to help with kind of the buildup for that process. So also kudos to them for really showing up with our marketing committee and building out some fun things you guys are going to be seeing over the next few weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where that CEG vote comes in as well. Awesome. All right. Moving into a very different topic, Hubert, have a highly future theoretical question for you. So, can we get more details on how the crafting system will work? Specifically, I'm interested in understanding first the role of blue genes and element aligned. How will these enhance the crafting process? How significantly will they improve the quality or effectiveness of crafted items? And then I've got a second one after that.
Okay. Yeah, so this is far in the future, and we haven't really made like definitive decisions at this point on some of these things. So it's kind of hard to answer that. But I will say, as far as like what's currently being planned, is that there will be some recipes that will require you have either like 2 different crafting professions, or some that will require that you have the just you're a specialist in one to be able to make that or like do that recipe. Element alignment is really intended to be just kind of add a bonus to your results, so just improve the chances of you getting a better result than not. But like exactly how that's going to work, it's really hard to say because we're really not focusing on that system at the moment. And yeah, I think also just having the blue, like being a specialist in something just in general will likely add a bonus as well, beyond just there being some potential recipes that are kind of exclusive to that specialist.
Nice, thank you. The impact of pets on crafting. How will pets contribute to or improve the crafting process? Will they offer specific bonuses or efficiencies? And how important do you think they will be for it?
Again, hard to answer completely right now. I do want it, I'm hoping to build a crafting system that's dynamic enough to allow us to have a bunch of different pet bonuses to like enhance things in different ways. So we'll have to we'll have to get to that point and see what is possible based on it's all gonna like with the pet bonuses for the professions, for example, like it's what we did. It was really based on how those profession quests work, and we looked at every angle that we could to like provide a bonus. So it'll be kind of the same thing with crafting, where based on how the system's set up, like number of resources needed, chances for like a high quality version, chances for I guess some other things that could occur, like if we have recipes that are not for like a piece of equipment, but for like a what's the term I'm looking for? A secondary material, like if you have logs and you have to cut them into lumber, for example. There could be things kind of tied to that. But yeah, it's kind of a lot of speculation at the moment. It is going to be a while before we get to the crafting system. So that's about as good as I can give you at the moment.
Greatly appreciated, Hubert. I will take my disclaimer banner down as well. Welcome to Fox. We're going to go over to Fox here in just a minute for a question for him, but we'll give him a second to get settled and hit Hubert with a couple more questions. Thoughts on implementing for combat a recover 1 NP on hero's turn system?
I think I don't really like it. I mean, that's not very friendly to mages, right? If it was 1 MP per turn, for example, it would have to be something that was maybe more tied to like how much MP a class has, if we were to do that in the first place. But in general, I generally just don't like any sort of MP regen that isn't coming from either some specific skill or from the usage of items. Just because, it's possible if we did have anything like that, that people could turtle and just recover MP that way and kind of abuse the system if we did it. So and that doesn't really matter so much for void hunts at the moment, but in the future, when we have tournaments, when we have like the scrub fight system where you might be fighting waves of enemies, and it's more of an endurance system, or like gameplay where you're trying to get to the end of like 5 fights or whatever, with resources still available, like any sort of passive regeneration system is going to get in the way of that system working very well. So I generally don't like the idea.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Hubert. Gonna hit you with 2 more and then I'll give you a break for a minute. Do we still have plans to do PJ only content, Perilous Journey only content in the future?
Yes. Yep. We're still planning on doing things with that. It's what it might be. It's going to be hard to say. There will likely be some things tied to PvP. I will note also that we are adding in like an option for players to create PvP matches that only allow Perilous Journey heroes to join. So that also allows us, once tournaments are out, to have tournaments that only allow Perilous Journey heroes to join and things like that as well. So we are looking out for them already, but there are more things kind of down the pike that we have planned for them too. So yeah, it's not forgotten.
Thank you. Actually gonna jump back for a second. There was a follow-up question in chat from the previous. Any thoughts about HP or MP regeneration on a piece of equipment?
I think it still is the same issue. Again, I think it kind of gets in the way. We can, I can think about it some more, but I just generally think that if there's a strategy for recovering MP where you just turtle all the time, you just pass a whole bunch of turns just so you can get MP and have an advantage on like a future like tournament round or future scrub fight or anything like that. Like that's not great design, I don't think. So probably going to avoid really anything that creates a situation like that.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Last one for you for a minute. Wondering if the zombie epidemic that afflicted our hero population last October might have spread into the monster realm. Any thoughts on having undead monsters in future combat? And a secondary part of that, any thoughts on having some heroes that could potentially be able to turn these undead in the D&D sense?
This kind of reminds me of the other question about like the exorcism tree for priest. So it's kind of, if we were to kind of define enemies and heroes into like specific categories and have damage types that work specifically for them, that's beyond like physical and magical damage, it's going to make the system much more complicated than it already is. So generally we kind of avoided doing anything like elemental damage, like type damage, beyond what we already have. So I think we're probably going to stick to that just because we already have our hands pretty full with balancing as it is, and that would just make it worse. So yeah, we kind of made some decisions very early on when we were building the combat system to just avoid those kind of categories. So it's possible things could change in the future, but at least for right now, I don't see us doing that.
Cool. Thank you, Hubert. Fox, welcome. You ready for a question?
Hey, yeah, I'm ready.
All right. I got a really open-ended one for you. Would love to hear from Fox on why he is bullish on DFK and why the future is bright, in his opinion.
Well, how long have you got? Let's see.
24 minutes.
All right, challenge accepted. No, let's see. There's just a ton. I mean, I think the future is always bright. I'm an optimist. I think optimism is much better, but when you look at what DFK is and what it's trying to be, it's really a very unique thing. Like just look at the field of technology in general. with computers, with the internet. And then now with the advent of like blockchain technology, you sort of look at the adoption patterns and things, and it starts out that it's like, oh, this is kind of cool for scientists that are experimenting, and then oh, this kind of moves into like business use cases, and then it's like, this is actually really cool to use for just having fun, for entertainment. And that's sort of how it worked with computers, and like computer games really like spurred on a lot of that excitement around it. Same thing with internet, internet gaming is huge now. I think it's going to be the same thing for blockchain. We've seen the pattern, and that, in my opinion, the future of sort of like online gaming will revolve around blockchain. And I think there's just so much there that is really unique around ownership of assets and around players being able to actually like participate in the ecosystem in a very real way. I think it's really unique and amazing what that level of sort of like what that like level of extra decentralization can do for games. So I'm super excited to see what that does. Assets, you own your assets, and the games can be built around your assets without having to necessarily say, hey, like every single game is a silo and your progress here doesn't necessarily impact your progress here. That's a whole new paradigm now with the blockchain, where you can have assets that can be used across multiple platforms and games. So I'm super stoked about that. I think there's going to be amazing things built. I always kind of talk about like Ready Player One, and I think there's going to be a lot of things like that in the future, and I think it's going to happen through the blockchain. So there's those things. Bullish, I think our team's amazing. Look at where we are. Look at where we've come from, and it's been 3 years, almost 3 years since we launched. It's been over 3 years since we formed as a team, and since the idea was sort of started. So I've personally been working on this over 3 years, and it's been amazing. And to look at all of the other sort of like flash in the pan apps that have been announced and built, and then they're gone now. There's endless amounts. I can't even count them all, but it's been over 3 years now, and we're still here. We're still building, and we've got a long roadmap ahead of us. You look at where we are and where we'd like to be with just stuff on our existing roadmap, and there's still a ton there. So I really, really love our team, and they have shown that they're like resilient, even on the ups and downs of the crazy stuff here in crypto with the cycles and things. Like, we're resilient, still here, still building. And that's exciting for me to see. Okay, we've shown that we're like resilient. What will the future hold? Like what still is out there to build, and there's a lot. And what will that bring? So I'm excited about that. The technology, we're always like really trying to push the envelope with tech. A lot of apps out there are built around a single chain. We have basically from the very start wanted to be cross-chain, and we are cross-chain. And we're one of the few apps out there that have actually reached that level. There's some other like really good ones out there that we've sort of tried to like pattern after a little bit. There's like Uniswap and others that try to go after many different chains. And I think that's really cool, because there's no single point of failure in your ecosystem or in your app, because you've got stuff all over the place. And trying to give players sort of like a reason to go to all these different chains within the game is a totally new paradigm that we're totally trend-setting there. So I'm really stoked about that approach as well. The community is amazing. I think all of you guys know that. Every time we go to any events and we see you guys there, anytime that we're in any of these like live streams or spaces on Twitter or whatever it is, and you guys are there showing up, it's amazing. And it really spurs us on, and it gives us drive to really push and build and create this awesome product. So that's also sort of like a really strong thing that makes me really bullish about it. A lot of the IP that we've been trying to build is just amazing. Nods to like Second Best Dad, and to like Beetle Dude and Sam for the music. I mean, there's just like amazing things that are being built there around the IP. So that's amazing as well. I sort of briefly mentioned about assets and ownership of assets, but the whole idea of having an on-chain decentralized economy that we don't control is brand new in games. And I think we really are like the trendsetters there on that like push. So seeing how like these items that are being made, the players figure out what they should be worth. We don't say, oh, this should be worth this much, you know, like there's supply and there's the like usage of like all those assets there as well. And creating that free market is a huge part of what blockchain is. And so having that be a part of our game just gives us that ability to have that as a first class sort of like system within our game. So that's huge. Sunbear's here, I think. Yeah, and also Dreamer. You know, we've got amazing biz dev, strategic partnerships being made all the time with amazing and like really innovating chains and really like innovating companies out there. Like, you know, I could just like sit here and list a ton of them, but then I'd probably like forget some. But, you know, like we've got really cool partners such as, you know, like Avalanche and like Metis and Klaytn, and then we've got like Layer Zero, Synapse, and a bunch of others out there that are helping us to build this tech. So, you know, there's just amazing things there with those strategic partnerships. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of potential with blockchain that we want to do and we will do. It's just a matter of time. But there's so many things there, like, you know, holding all kinds of votes. We already do votes. I'd like to do more votes. I think there's amazing stuff happens when you empower your players to actually have an active role in the direction of the game and like the whole project and all of that. So I think that's really important and like really critical. Even just like blockchain, the trustless sort of nature of it, where you could eventually have like players and like some guilds out there that have their own like validators that they're running. I think that would be huge. And I'm really excited about that prospect as well. And all of these are things that I have in my head that, you know, who knows when it'll happen or if, I guess. But these are things that I'm excited about that I think definitely could happen. So don't necessarily say, oh, this is going to happen next week, right? Because it's me. But there's just so many awesome things that could be built on this that I want to see built on it. So those are the things that I'm bullish on. And I think that's a good summary. And what was that? Maybe 10 minutes? I don't know. So you guys can have the 14 minutes left back.
Right at 8 minutes. And no, that was awesome and super, super inspiring. I love it. Thank you, Fox. Always appreciate to hear from you. And first off, I want to second the shout out to Sam, because I just don't feel like we say his name enough, and he deserves so much credit. And also, you know, there's a lot of our team members who you don't see as often, or you know, you don't necessarily directly see their work. So like people like Pinecone, right? Pinecone's so good at his job that you don't know he's doing it, because that's how good he is. So Pinecone, you know, Typical is a phenomenal front end dev. So just huge shout out to all of them that don't necessarily always get the name recognition that they deserve. Also, speaking of events, should have more finalized information here in the relatively short term, but I do think I can at least say today we will be at Permissionless in Salt Lake City. So stay tuned for more details. But as always, would love to see you guys there with us as well. So greatly appreciate all of you, and Fox, appreciate that incredibly bullish talk. Jumping into some more questions, got another front end related question, so I'm going to take it. It's actually two different questions, but I'm going to kind of put them together because they're related. Will we be able to run expeditions with groups of larger than 6? And if expeditions are no longer done in teams, but all the heroes quest at the same time, would it be possible to remove a single hero when it needs to level up rather than removing the whole group, or are there technical limits that prevent that? So expeditions still overall use the same base rules as normal questing. So they still can't be done in groups of more than 6 because that's how questing is set up. But they are still done in teams or groups. They just all run simultaneously, except for actually, no, just in general. So you still have the groups. They're not waiting for the group in front of them to finish. For the second part about like a single hero that needs to level up, you wouldn't be able to like pull one out of the group, because then you wouldn't be able to put it back in, and it just wouldn't work with the timing setup. Technically speaking, you could queue all your expeditions with single heroes and they would all still run simultaneously, but it would add a lot of clicks and not be super fun. I wouldn't recommend it, but phase 2 will help with that as well. A lot of the user experience is kind of already planning for phase 2, because it didn't make sense to build one not planning for what we already know we're going to do and then have to redo it all. So that will also get a little bit easier. And then there's a second part about if it's possible to assign heroes to a power up in larger batches than 100 at a time. That's pretty much as far as we're willing to push that limit currently, with the contract interactions and the transaction limits and everything that has to process with that. Unlikely that we're going to try to push that past the 100 number, at least anytime soon. Don't want to break anything. All right. Let's see. Going back to Hubert for a second. Any thoughts or specificity that you can give as far as timeline for Divine Essence, but not date-wise, more like where it falls into the roadmap sequence, for example, with like PvP, phase 2 of expeditions, pet combat bonuses, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so the thing about Divine Essence is that it is also tied to kind of the durability system, which the durability system is also not out yet, but having the ability to restore equipment with greater Divine Essence is kind of a part of the whole thing now. So in my mind, I don't really think it would be good for us to release a durability system without Divine Essence. And I also think that we need the durability system for when we start doing like any sort of serious PvP, where there's prizes on the line, and like especially tournaments, where there is kind of a cost to your equipment to participate in these things, which without that it kind of gives an unfair advantage to people that have like the best equipment out there. They're not losing any durability. They can just use it indefinitely. So I would say that it would be closely aligned with when durability comes out, and that durability is something that I would like us to have out for tournaments. So hopefully that kind of gives you a sense of where. But again, things can kind of change. It depends on our bandwidth and like what we can get done. So things can always shift a little bit.
Awesome.
I guess I'll say one other thing real quick about that too, just to note that we are making progress on that Divine Essence system. We have artwork in place for pretty much I think everything at this point that would be related to that, and we also have in the works here an upgrade coming for the meditation circle that will kind of get things set up so that we will be ready for level re-rolling and level resetting as well. So there's kind of some pre-work that we need to do before the Divine Essence system can come out, and that's already like underway. So that's all.
Awesome. Thank you, good sir. Going over to Magnus and potentially Fox as well. So assuming that Gwei now remains nice and stable at or very near the 3.0 mark, which is our current base, would we consider holding an RFC vote to reduce the base fee, perhaps to 2 or even back down to the original 1? I can imagine wording of such RFC would also include a caveat enabling us to revert or correct any changes subject to chain performance. A little bit of background for those that don't recall or weren't here for it. When we very first launched DFK Chain, we were running a 1.0 Gwei base and hit like 4 million transactions in a single day, which is not the healthiest thing for the chain on an ongoing long-term basis. So we upped the base to help with spam transactions pretty much, and ARB bots and that kind of thing. So Magnus, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure thing. I'll say that's definitely like within the realm of possibility. I think now that we've seem to have hit this baseline level of 3, we'll kind of continue to evaluate and see where that goes. Yeah, the reason we bumped it up, as Bolan mentioned, is there was a lot of spam transactions happening and just a lot of volume on the chain. So have to kind of try to curtail that a little bit, so everybody can't just like write as much data as they want to the chain. But yeah, definitely something we'll continue to evaluate. Go for it, Fox.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'll also note that, there's a lot of variables with what plays into what it costs for gas. There's actually a lot more variables than I originally thought when I first learned how it all worked. And I was like, wow, like this is actually pretty complex. So there's like how fast it goes up or down, how sticky it is, how many blocks it looks back. There's all kinds of things. So the way that it was now was what we kind of like reached as a good point with all of the stuff that was going on with all the questing and things, and Expeditions comes in and basically has sort of like changed the amount that we're seeing, which is great. So could those formulas be adjusted? I think they could, but we'd also have to be careful that we probably wouldn't be able to just adjust one variable and have it just work. We'd have to sort of look at the whole picture, and that might result in other things too. So yeah, I guess Magnus is for sure like the big brain there with all those variables. So I would be sort of like following his lead, but I think that yes, definitely within the realm of possibility, but caveat it with it's actually very complex and we probably couldn't just change one thing.
And it's interesting too, there's kind of the like standard EVM dynamic gas model, but we're also seeing people do new stuff with gas fees, like what Metis has done. Not that I keep track of what every single chain in existence is doing by any means, because I don't think it's possible, but I've never seen a chain take the approach that Metis has now taken. So it's also something that, keeps evolving too, which is interesting. All right. Let's see. Hubert and maybe Magnus as well, if you have anything you want to add to it. Would it be possible for someone to look at the green egg drop numbers and make sure that they're correct, because some players feel like they might be a little low?
Yeah, I can take a look. We did reduce the drop rates of eggs in general, so it is kind of hard to see like over time how many you're getting. I think with expeditions, it'll probably be easier to kind of see that if you do like a multi-month expedition, and like you use kind of similar heroes, but maybe one has the pet bonus that helps them find more eggs versus the other one that not having that. I would expect that you'd start to see kind of differences if you gave it enough time to have a lot of things to process in there. But because the drop rate is so low, it's kind of just hard to feel what that is, and like even see like the bonus will be helping you. And I think with expeditions again, you'd be able to see that, but just like doing a single quest iteration at a time, it's you have to just do so many to get to receive an egg. It's kind of hard to see. But I'll double check, look at the numbers. I think they're right. I've been looking at them a lot with the expedition stuff. So, but I'll double check.
Awesome. Appreciate you, sir. Let's see. We've got 3 questions left. We're going to see if we can knock them out real quick. And then I did promise a surprise update / announcement before we wrap up. Sticking with you for a minute, Hubert, any thoughts on when we might have a Void Sharded hunt? Is it necessary for Void Shards to be soulbound, or would having them be transferable break their foreseeable utility?
So it will be a while before we get to that. Just with our focus on PvP now, I don't really see us putting out another Void Hunt until we're pretty much done with our PvP milestones. But I would like our next void hunt to be one that requires void shards, just so that we can start doing that. And as far as like the question of them being soulbound versus not, like the kind of the idea there was for it to be something that would reward playing rather than just buying them from somebody else. And so that was kind of the angle that we went with that. With that said, you will be able to get divine or void shards from the divine essence system using dark summoned heroes. So there is technically a way to get them through a different route. They'd still end up being soulbound, but there is kind of a if you have dark summoned heroes or you get dark summoned heroes, you could try to get void shards through that approach. So there is kind of a way to buy into the void shard system with that, but it comes at the cost of burning heroes. So I felt that it was, that if it comes with that cost, I think that's okay. So yeah, so again, it'll be a little bit, but that's kind of what I'm hoping to do, is have it be the next void hunt we release will be a void shard hunt. Void shunt.
Or a void shunt. Awesome. Thank you. And last question for you. Will there be, or do we have planned an option for players to rent other players' heroes for hunts or PvP?
I think we'll have to wait and see, but I generally do like the idea of having heroes available for rent for PvP at least. But if we do that, it's probably going to be something that is a little bit further down the line. But I like the idea, especially for like new players. If we could provide them with a team that they could rent to use for PvP versus like needing to buy heroes and figure a lot of things out initially. I think that would just kind of help bring new players in and see what the experience is like.
Awesome. Thank you, good sir. All right, one last question, and then I'll jump into the final update / announcement, and we will wrap up for the day. But the last question was one I was going to take anyway. Thoughts on adding a stone carver tracker to the Discord server? I think it'd be really cool. I think it's a question of if Dr. Zipper has time to build that Discord bot, or alternatively, if somebody in the community wants to build it. So if anybody has experience with Discord bots and wants to whip one up, or doesn't have experience and wants to get some practice, if anybody wants to make a stone carver tracker bot, feel free and just let me know. We can always add it to the server. Happy to do that. And really, I mean, that's kind of an open invitation. If y'all have bots that you think tracking something would be helpful, we're always open to talk about it and look at adding it. So Daz says it exists already. If it exists already, let me know. That's something that we can definitely take a look at and do. Awesome. All right, so surprise time. Announcement / update, something I'm very excited for. This is a part of our birthday celebration of sorts. It ties in. So our third year anniversary / birthday will actually be next Thursday. So we'll have an AMA on it as well, which is cool. But we have something planned for that weekend, which would be the 24th and 25th, as well as the following weekend, which is the 31st and the 1st. So we are going to be doing a content creator PvP preview weekend. So we are inviting our own content creators, of course, as well as some external content creators from around the Web3 gaming space to come and get a little early look at what PvP is going to be and look like and feel like. So I'm super excited for that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think it's going to be a great way to start spreading the good word of DFK PvP. That is planned for those 2 weekends, the 24th and 25th, and the 31st and September 1st. Doing the content creator preview weekends. Obviously, we're not going to have an NDA because I'm telling you about it. Encouraging these creators to try it out, test it out. It will be in a little bit of a rougher state because it won't be fully polished and ready, but it'll be in a place that's ready for them. Create some content around it, talk about it, just really get a feel for what we've built, what we've done, and what's coming. But I think this is a great opportunity to loop in some content creators that may or may not have talked about DFK in the past. Doesn't matter. They know who we are. And a lot of them have been kind of waiting for this more competitive aspect of our game. So super excited for that. There will be more information coming on that a little bit later as well, but wanted to share it today. And I hope that y'all are excited about it as well and see the potential there. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to. But with that, we are going to move into our wrap up, and then we will close out for the day. Let's see. I'm going to just start going around the horn, and whoever I go to last is going to bullish us, because that's how we're going to do it today. As always, for myself, thank you for everybody that has tuned in for this and everyone that will listen to it later. Thank you to everybody who submits questions for us to answer, talk.defikingdoms.com or the AMA questions channel in our Discord. But please make sure to keep these questions coming. And as always, thank you to everybody who's up here and has taken the time out of their day to join me and answer all of these questions for us. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. So with that, let's go over to, you know what? We're going to go to Fox last. I'm going to make him bullish us. So let's go over to Winston. Any final thoughts, Winston?
Hey, yeah, thanks, Bolon. Just stoked that I don't have to do the bullish. That's a good feeling. As usual, I'm grateful to be a member of this team. It's super fun to work with passionate people who are smart and also kind of single-minded in the production of something. It's really rewarding, and super grateful to the community for sticking with us this whole time. You guys are awesome. We couldn't do any of this stuff without you. We're glad you're having fun. And Expeditions was a huge effort from the whole team. Grateful that that is finally out with only a few bugs. And thanks to Choso for notifying us of that one over the weekend that we got to knock down. And just a reminder, we love giving bounties. If you find something like that, it's just, if you're totally good to just let us know. That's the nicest thing you could do. Don't exploit it. Don't like that. So thanks, Bolon. Yeah, that's me. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Winston. Fox, I think you're right. I did make you bullish us last week. All right, we'll make Sunbear do it. Hubert, final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to kind of echo what Winston just said. Very much appreciate when you guys point out anything that seems to be wrong with the behavior of anything in the game, whether be it combat, be it new expeditions, quests, anything. It does help us, find some of those, and some of these bugs can be pretty difficult to find or kind of really hidden in place. So having kind of a large group of people all participating and kind of getting into a weird situation is very helpful for us. So thank you all for what you've done so far, and reminder to keep us in the know about anything that you find. At the moment, it looks like I got a couple less impactful bugs to look at real quick here on Expeditions, but hoping to have that pretty much wrapped up and feeling like we've addressed everything that we're aware of, so that we're just fully focused on our PvP development, which is also going at full steam at this point. So it's really exciting time right now for us. Really looking forward to when we can get that out, and these upcoming weekends for the PvP preview that Bolon just mentioned. Hope you all will tune into that, and yeah, I think that's all I have right now.
Thank you, Magnus.
Hey everybody. Yep, glad to see y'all are enjoying Expeditions. I just want to echo what everybody else was saying. Thanks for being a great community and letting us know when things don't seem quite right. I mentioned a few weeks ago that my favorite part of being a dev is releasing code and seeing you guys use it, and especially after all the bugs are fixed, and it does seem like we're almost there. So I can soak that in for a little bit and just enjoy my work for about 5 minutes before I go over to PvP and just dive into that again. So it's a cycle, but the 5 minutes of good release time is worth it. So yep, that's it for me. Just a great team, and enjoying just chipping away on this next big feature.
Thank you. Dreamer, I don't think we even heard from you today, so let's go.
Oh man, I've been waiting. I just wanted somebody to ask me a question. I want to be cool, but it's fine.
Y'all heard that? Submit a bunch of questions for Dreamer.
um, but echoing on the excitement for like the play testing, we did one series of recording with one of our friends over there at Avalanche Gaming, and it was so cool to see the progression of knowledge lead into excitement during the game. A lot of games out there, whether they're Web3 or not, um, you go through the motions and you play, and there's some kind of goal. Usually nowadays, it's in competition or doing something with your friends. And we've had 3 years of people in Discord talking about and being excited about all these parts of the game, but other aspects that haven't made it there yet, like maybe in-game chat or guilds, or competitive gameplay through PvP, it's going to change the game for the players the most. And there's a lot of content creators out there that are hungry for an offering like this, where they say, wow, this is something that has weathered the storm multiple cycles already. They're resilient. They have good tech. They being DeFi Kingdoms, they have good tech, and they really went balls to the wall and tokenized every freaking thing. And now when I look here at this battle, which it is fun, each team has dozens of tokens, NFTs, and so on. And even though we talked about exclusivity on Metis through the Coliseum, even though the gameplay and all the features, some chunky ones we haven't announced yet, exist there, it all ties together. It ties together back to the players, back to the full realms, the Gen Zeros, the summoning, the questing, the crafting of potions. This is meant to consume and light a fire under all of that. The creators, as they see the fun aspect, and then they start learning the depth and strategy aspect, and start like uncovering different layers. Like initially it's like, let me understand the heroes. Cool. Let me understand the skill trees. All right. Let me understand the equipment. Okay. I'm getting there. Now they're playing potions, that's just like a health potion, mono potion. There's so many more potions that completely change the strategy as well. And now you have synergies and counters and so on. So this playtest and this invite to bring in new creators is one that we also are asking all of you to help with. If you see people tweet about the DFK, we have some people that are hardcore. They hop on those tweets right away. I think we need more. We need more people to support that. When we see people drop videos or reviews or participate in playtesting, we want our creators to collaborate with them. And we're going to be making an effort to try to connect you as well. And if successful, maybe even like do some matchmaking, where if we get somebody trying DeFi Kingdoms, yes, we are in a great position to educate them and play with them, but we really want to integrate them into the community. And that's where many of you could sync up with them on some of these events or events in the future or tournaments in the future, private matches or others. And we really hope we see this as a collective effort to bring people into initially the competitive gameplay, which also is like a gateway feature to get into everything else in DeFi Kingdoms. It takes literally weeks or months for somebody to fully experience everything we have to offer. And that's okay. We just need an initial hook that is a lot shorter to understand and quicker to feel the excitement of gameplay and community. And that's what we're trying to do. And hopefully everybody out there is excited to help us with. Let's bring more players in. Let's target some of these big streamers that are hungry for a game like ours and show them the community, and then lift the legions of players and others to return or find out or come to DFK for the first time. So excited about everything that was talked about today. I was quiet, but there were some cool, juicy questions. Thanks for those and great answers. So I shall mute and go back to you, Bullet.
Thank you, Dreamer. Appreciate it. Getting a couple of really just bullish sentiments here today. So going back to Fox for final comments.
Sweet. Where did that end up? Am I doing the final bullish too, or just passing?
We're going to throw it to Sunbear for the final bullish.
Yes, I love that. I just have a kick always like reading all the comments here, and we have such amazing people here every week. I see the same awesome people, and also other people too. You know, there's always Ogre and like Zealous, and then there's all of the guilds. You know, like there's like the Beeve and just other people there. I always see like Mega. If you guys are bullish, put it in the comments because I love hearing from you guys. We got Skiller. Why? How do you even say that name? YEO1, Michael. There was some people earlier, Huffenstein, Wagme. You know, a lot of you people, you're here every week, and you always make sure to take time out of your day, out of your week for this, and we appreciate that. So I appreciate it, and I want to say thank you to all of you and to our team as well. And over to you, Bolon/Sunbear, whichever way it wants to go.
Let's jump to Sunbear to close this out.
I can do that. Hey, everybody. You know, it's funny, as I help put together these deals with partners that see our vision and want to build with us, we figure out exactly what those milestones are going to be, what we need to do in order to, you know, to get paid and all that kind of stuff to make things happen. And the team, I just want you to know this, the team is never satisfied with any deal that we make. They always add to it. I mean, it seems like every week or every couple of weeks, there's a new feature that's going to be added. There's a new thing that's going to be, you know, that's going to make it that much better, that much more fun. And even though it's not part of the deal, we're doing it. We got to do it. The game committee is getting, I just feel like vibrantly excited because of the gameplay that's finally coming to a point where we really want it to be, that we've been laying the foundation for the last 3 years. I mean, think about this. Next week, when we come into this AMA, we're starting year 4. And that kind of blows my mind a little bit. So I want to say thank you to the team for never being satisfied, for always continuing to want to make it better, more, bigger. And thank you to the community for believing in it, believing in us, seeing the vision, and seeing where we can go with this. You're the ones that make it happen. So, and with that, I'm a big karaoke guy, and so I'm going to say I'm going to bullish in the style of Pinecone. So here goes bullish.
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 Thank you, everybody, and we will see you next week.
DeFi Kingdoms, where you can summon heroes, trade with other players, quest, and fight challenging enemies in a fantasy world brought to life in pixel art animation. Command your